Welcome to In the Box. It's about that time, man. We got another episode, and tonight is going to be a special episode. Man, we got Sage Music in the house, Richard Roach Jr. We've been waiting for this to happen for a long time, man. Took time out of his busy schedule. He is here, and we're gonna jump back in. Glad to see y'all, man. And another Friday. Let's get it.
Fundamentals and building blocks. Turn to advice when I'm in that spot. When I got questions, and that's a lot. Perfect time to hear from Rico in the box.
Yes, sir. Hey, it's that time. Got a great Friday. We're ready to kind of get it in. Before we do that, man, we're going to pay a couple bills, man. Let's go Scorpio Lamonte, Lush Reflection Hour.
Scorpio Lamont is the official eyewear of the Big Three. Luxury, fashion eyewear with a wider frame and a bold look. Seeing is believing. Bring your A game with the look you want. Luxury, fashion eyewear by Scorpio Lamont, the official eyewear of the Big Three.
All right. Let's go ahead and let's get my man Sage Music in. What it do? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got Sage Music in the house, man. Hey, bro.
Sir.
Hey, it's a blessing to have you here, man. What's been popping with you, man? What's been going on?
Man, life, man, just out here, just living life just as usual. I'm blessed to be able to say that I have a project that I just released. Of course, my man Rico definitely put the mastering final touches on it, made it sound great, and I've just been getting a good amount of feedback on the project itself. So I'm happy to be here. So yeah.
Hey, man, it's a dope project. If you haven't had an opportunity, man, make sure you go out, check it out. It's From the Heart to Life is War. Oh, we're going to dig into this tonight. Glad he's here, man. You can go check it out right now and stream it on all platforms, man. Hey, so just to dive right in, bro, like, when did you start doing music? Like, where, like, let's tell everybody where you from, and how, just because you've been doing this for a long time. Like, I know you, but I know nobody else really know you. But let's talk about, man, where you from and how you just got started doing this music thing, bro.
Okay. So I'm born and raised originally from Queens, New York, Southside Queens, New York. Born out there, raised out there. Basically came up in the South side of Queens. And as far as this music, I've been kind of off and on rapping since I was about maybe 13 years old. So my story is a little different. I kind of started doing Christian rap from actually the onset. I was introduced to groups like DC Talk and another little known artist named Danny D. Boy Rodriguez, who started off in the Bronx, New York, and then moved out to Dallas, Texas. Unfortunately, he lost his life actually trying to evangelize and witness to teens that were involved in gangs. And allegedly, the story is that the local gang leaders didn't like that, so they kind of got rid of him. But it was those two artists that actually got me started. And so I started kind of penning rhymes from about 13 years old. And of course, growing up in New York City, hip hop was everywhere. So, but
facts.
Yeah.
So you started penning rhymes when you was 13. What was life back there in New York, man, at 13? What was the atmosphere? What was there a lot of Christian rap around that time when you started rhyming, or what was the scene around that time?
So, so the scene back then, let's see, I'm 13 at the time. So you got to think this is probably the mid 90s and everything like that. I'm really dating myself. But yeah, so it's about the mid 90s. So, rap was kind of relatively young, started in the mid 70s. So in the mid 90s is about 20 years old, rap and everything like that. Hip hop was still kind of new on the scene, especially in the mainstream. And so rap was kind of sort of getting its tracking, its footing. And so Christian rap was not really as much a thing. It was not widely accepted. So it was something very interesting because I was actually someone who grew up in the church, and so I had this identity on Sunday morning, and then of course Monday through Saturday. There's kind of like, okay, so how do you kind of bring the two together, because these two things,
Right.
Christianity and hip hop, were very much a very real part of who I was and who I am. And so, yeah, at that time, it was really maybe DC Talk that had gotten kind of mainstream recognition, and that was I guess, a somewhat a good introduction for mainstream audiences to hip hop. But then, of course, depending on who you ask, some people felt that it was a little too commercial. So it was still a kind of hodgepodge of things at the time.
So how what was the feeling like, man? Doing because I want to kind of go back and talk about, okay, you're doing Christian hip hop. It wasn't popular, and it's still really not popular today, right? As in the aspect of what we look at as mainstream hip hop versus what we kind of want, Christian, rap is. But what was your struggle? Did your parents, man, like, because back then you got to think, you're talking about when you're talking about the early parts of the early MCs, man, you didn't really have a lot of famous Christian other than DC Talk, and we didn't DC Talk, even though we didn't really look at DC Talk, man, as being like Christian rap. I didn't think were, man. But I think a lot of people still was listening to like mainstream hip hop, right?
Right, right.
So what did your parents like? What did your parents say when you was trying to do Christian hip hop? Did they say, well, did they really at first they say it was from the Lord, or did they say, oh man, that's that devil music? Why are you trying to do that? That ain't supposed to be in the church. Or what was that conversation like, man?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was actually pretty interesting now that I think about it. My parents were pretty encouraging when I started off. I remember clear as day, one of my early raps when I wrote it, I would write it a certain kind of way. And I think there was a lyric in there that was kind of like, all right, you can't say that. I think it was, oh man, I'm trying to remember, but it was something that I said in the lyric, and my dad caught it right away. He's like, no, you got to rewrite that. You can't say that. So I was trying to find a word. Oh, like if I remember my first rap or one of my early raps, I said something. I was talking about the subject of Jesus coming back. So I said,
Right.
when he's coming back. Now that's a subject that we can't reject. Jesus is coming back, and that's a fact. Yo, listen up or I'll smack. And my dad was like, wait, who are you smacking? No, you can't write that. You have to rewrite that. So, and I don't know, I'm thinking like, why would I write that? Like looking back now. So my parents were pretty supportive of it, because it was just one of those things where this was kind of coming onto the scene, and I had my mindset to do it within the church context, at the time. And so they're like, okay, here, you want to be creative, we'll encourage it. But they knew it was kind of like a thing that was kind of fleeting at the time. And it wasn't something that they were like, oh yeah, you're really good, you should really pursue this. It was like, okay, he wrote a rap, fine. He wants to do it in church, here, just let him do it. And then we'll just go back to business as usual. So yeah.
And so you never actually went back to business as usual, but you did, but you didn't leave the rap alone. Did you Did you travel around at that time? At that time, like, was there a little circuit, man? Did you ever go to other churches and rhyme with any other MCs, like for the churches, or you were just kind of that new artist in an aspect of not a lot of Christian MCs? Like, did you get invited to other churches, man, or how? I mean, what was it like?
Yeah, so at about 13, 14, 15, I mainly stayed within the context of my church, my home church where I grew up. So I was just the local artist. So when they were having maybe like a youth night, they're like, "Hey, Richard can do his thing, whatever," and they would do that. So, and so I kind of played around with it from about 13, 14, 15. Picked it back up at 16. I remember I would ask my mother for her keyboard, and I would learn how to try to program the keyboard because this is back in the mid 90s, so I didn't have access to instrumentals and beats and everything like that. So it was starting to pick up ground, and I was starting to take it seriously. At the same time, it was interesting because, you know, growing up in church, if you have kids in church, on Sundays and whatever days during the week we're in church. But I think my parents weren't bearing in mind that Monday through Friday, when you send me out into the secular public school system, I'm in with the other kids, and this is what everybody is listening to. And so growing up, my house was very much, we don't listen to that. We don't listen to that. But at the same time, like if it appeared on like the Arsenio Hall show or some kind of televised show, all of a sudden it's like, yay, it's fun. Wait, this is the same music we can't listen to. So it was funny.
Stan Moss, glad to have you, Stan. Stan said, Great Q Records was the hardest gospel rap I heard, man. And I know you, man, knew about Great Tree, Little Rascal. We see him online a lot, man. Antonio's Prime Minister,
man.
yeah, man. Hey, Great Q Records, man, was hard. I think they actually are trying to. I heard they was trying to come back, from what I understood. They're trying to re-release Great Tree, man, again, man. But yeah, Stan, yeah, we know Great Tree too, man. Definitely, man. So let's talk about this, right? Like, okay. What makes Christian rap excellent, mediocre, or subpar from your point of view, right? And from your perspective.
All right, so it's interesting. So I would say that I have been kind of on the scene supporting Christian rap, gospel, hip hop, whatever we're calling it nowadays. I've been supporting the music, the movement for actually a few decades now. So fortunately, I mean, shout out to Great Tree real fast. I know there's so many names that I know I've heard over the years. I've enjoyed. Yo, P, what's going on, man? So I have enjoyed the ministry and the artistry of so many artists over the years. And I feel like again, I'm probably dating myself a lot, but I have a lot of like CDs from ministers and artists that it would surprise you if I brought out my CD while I was probably back home in Jersey. But
right.
So to answer your question, what makes Christian rap mediocre, excellent? So I would say now that we have more access to, resources as far as getting instrumentals, we have access to beat making software, digital art workstations, and everything like that. I think the genre itself, the music, the artistry is way more excellent than what I had seen early on. And that's simply because more things are accessible now, right? The everyday average person can pretty much, without really breaking the bank too bad, you can get access to a lot. Whereas in the 90s, you really couldn't get access to things like that. So I think, and then also I think part of it is, we don't necessarily want to take our cues from the world in a sense, but at the same time, you want to balance it out by keeping your ear to kind of like what's going on in the world. And then also you kind of appreciate the artistry from, some people who are maybe in the mainstream or anything like that. And so you kind of pick up your cues. I think you end up creating what you like. So I would say, as far as what would make Christian rap mediocre, there's a lot that could be said there, and I think maybe to some extent I have been guilty of that over the years as well. But I think what I would say is putting the label Christian on something does not automatically make it good, right? You have to be
Facts.
excellent at what it is that you do. You have to have a certain standard of professionalism, and you have to, like, I shout out to my man Richie Righteous out in South Queens, right? He told me and taught me the art of like numbering my bars, measuring my bars, not stuffing my stanzas with too many words. And he told me about mixing and mastering and splitting tracks when I was making beats. And
Right.
when I was just starting out, I just was like, oh, I'm just gonna put lyrics over beats and just throw it out there. And there was so much I had to learn as far as being excellent at what I do. So there's a lot to it, but I definitely would say, we have to be, as artists, we have to be excellent. We have to be good, because before anybody could want to hear your message, something has to kind of pull their ear, like, oh, what's going on here? So,
But the reason I asked that question, man, simply because you got guitar centers everywhere, Sam Masters everywhere. Now you got Sweetwaters. A lot of places, man, where you can go and you can buy equipment, you can buy drum machines, you can buy your MPCs. Now they just dropped the MPC 37. Everybody feel like they can make music right now. And I think that, a lot of people don't take the craft of music serious. And I think a lot of people are doing music. Now, this is just my opinion, uh, because they want to be successful doing music. But time has changed. I think the time now is no different than what it was back then, because you still have the powers that be that kind of control the flow of music, getting it out to the masses, right? If you're trying to get on radio, if you're trying to get, even if you do a soundtrack for a movie, right, and you're trying to get on the mainstream, the powers that be still control that. So the thing that a lot of people, man, from my perspective, how do you get excellent at your music? When you got a friend, say for an example, you got a friend that do beats, but he really not that good, right? But his parents, do a lot for your family, right? They are great worshipers, prayer warriors. But he really, he got all the equipment, but his beat's terrible, not terrible, but terrible, right? How, as a believer, right? Because you hear arguments to where we got this mindset, well, you shouldn't hurt somebody's feelings, but then what's going on, Earl? You shouldn't hurt somebody's feelings. But when you lie to them, you give them false hope, and they're putting their time in to try to become great at something, but they really don't have that skill set. How do you approach that? How do you tell them, hey, you're not really good. You don't sound good. Your music is really amateurish. How do you tell a person that because there's some people that even if they apply themselves, they're still not going to be good, right? How do you approach that?
All right, so it's funny because I was thinking about that not too long ago, right? So I think, the thing that we want to try to have, myself, other people, ideally you want to have this in play, right? The scriptures say there's wisdom in the multitude of counsel, right? So you want to have a crew of people, hopefully believers that kind of give you honest feedback. So, somewhere along the line, we bought into the idea that honesty is rude. And there are people who can be rude when they're honest. That's a fact. But it doesn't necessarily mean just because somebody is rude with their honesty that you throw honesty out. Or, I think Proverbs itself says something to the effect of the wounds of a friend can be trusted, but an enemy kisses you profusely, right? So what do we take that scripture and we kind of put it in modern 2024 type of lingo where it's kind of like the yes man is the person who really doesn't have your best interests at heart. So you can trust the honest words of a friend who sometimes will have to use their words to kind of wound you with the truth. The truth doesn't necessarily feel good. So you got to
Right.
pull your man to the side like, hey, so listen, I'm not saying this to you because I'm jealous of you or anything like that, or I envy what it is that you have, but I feel like I want to give you some honest feedback about what you're doing. This is not really that good. Hey, I feel like this could be better. And so what if the thing that I try to do myself when I talk to other people is I don't just leave it at, hey, you're not good. I try to give them a little bit of a solution to tell them how they could be better at it. Hey, I don't think this beat quite works with those lyrics. Or, hey, I know you did this beat yourself. It's not really that good. It sounds dated or something like that. I myself have that. I want to shout out my wife, Mrs. Roach. She has been really good with that, right? There was so many versions of the songs on this project that those versions of the songs are not the original versions of those songs. So I remember I would go home and I would play the original versions of the songs, and she would be like, "Baby, no, this ain't it." Same it. One song in particular I think about is the song Church, right? When I played the original version for her, she was like, so I had to go back to the drawing board, like, okay. And I kind of had a feeling when you have honest feedback from somebody enough times, you can almost hear their voice in your head when you're like, hey, all right, so I'm gonna play this for you. I kind of have a feeling of what it is that you're gonna say. So I played it for her. She was like, nope, you're gonna have to go back to the drawing board on that one. And every single time she gave me honest criticism and honest feedback, I went back to the drawing board, I re-recorded the song, came back out with it. And in my opinion, the second version of at least 3 songs on the project where it was like, oh no, this one is it. I know. And she was like, no, this is great. I love this song. Da, 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 da. So that's not to say that I only run with her approval on songs or whatever, but I
Right.
have found that just like that's an example of listening to others, kind of getting other people's feedback and criticism, and it helps.
So what do you say to that person that once you had that conversation, they feel like you're just trying to hold them down, bro? Like
Right.
you just trying to hold me down. My music is good because maybe they got other people in their ear that's telling them that they are good. You tell them it's not good, and they just now they say to you, well, bro, really, your answer is subjective. It don't sound good to you, but it sounds good
Right.
to, because I hear a lot of that happening in our circles in the church community, because I'm like, okay, we got some different ears. Like we got a lot of different tastes going on. What's your approach? Do you believe that there are professional artists in the church? There are professional artists in the church? Or do you believe that there's hobbyists, right? Obviously you have beginners. Like, what's your feeling on being a professional Christian artist? And you're saying, hey, you're a professional Christian artist. What makes you professional? And then what makes you a hobbyist?
So so to kind of answer the first part of your questions, so with that person, if they don't take my word for it, I try to say, all right, you don't have to take my word for it. Go outside your circle, right? You're going to have your circle of people who may just be the ones to tell you exactly what you want to hear. Maybe you have gathered a bunch of people who just, oh, these are my friends because they're your friends because they're honestly not going to do what Proverbs says, which is, hey, I'm going to tell you the truth. It might hurt. You might have just surrounded yourself with yes men. So I'm like, all right, don't take my word for it. Pitch this stuff that you're doing to people outside of your circle and see what they say. And go and try to get a general consensus. And there's certain people where even something like that may not work. At that point, you're like, I mean, me personally, I'm like, hey, if that's what you feel like you want to do, go ahead. I'll take my hands off and kind of back up and be like, hey, bro, you got it. Doesn't mean I have to partner with you. You go ahead. It is what it is. I try to give you an idea and tell you what I think. And, some people are just not going to listen no matter how well you pitch it to them. Now, as far as the question about professional artists versus hobbyists within the church, I mean, I guess it depends on how serious they take their craft, right? Because I feel like if this is something that God has given you to do, right? God is the one who supplies us with the creativity. God is the one who gives us the art, the talent, gives us maybe the drive to perfect our craft and make it better and everything like that. I feel like God, if He is really about giving things to us, especially if we want to use these gifts and these arts to glorify Him with it, He's going to also supply opportunities. It might be a big platform. You may just rap for 2 or 3 people. I've been in both situations. So again, it depends on whatever God has in store. But I think the difference between a hobbyist and somebody who's more professional is just how much time they devote to like working on their craft, tweaking it, making it better. Somebody just may be satisfied, hey, I'm at this level, I'm just going to keep it at this level. I don't really care. This is the level of excellency that I've attained, and I'm not interested in pushing it further. Whereas somebody else might be like, hey, this is cool, but I want to see if I could tweak this a little better. I mean, I have had people, and I haven't, asked for these comments, but I've had people give me feedback on this last project that I just put out, Life is War. And they've been like, man, I really feel like you have really been honing your craft and you've just been excellent. I'm like, thank you. But I also, in my mind, I also hear my own voice and I'm like, all right, there's little things that I would like to say that I want to do to even tweak it some more to make it sound more professional. There's certain things that I'm like, all right, I did on this project, but for the next project, I'm probably going to get away from doing certain things because I'm still sort of still trying to find my voice. I don't feel like I've 100% found it yet. So I would say that would be my answer for that.
So we got P. Is this P? And then I see there's Reese on. Do you guys want to chime in on that, man? As far as what makes a professional artist versus what makes a mediocre artist? Any word from you, Reese? Y'all want to talk? Y'all all right?
Congregation, brother.
Anything you want to add, P? She leave the P like P. All right.
So you just listening in. Okay.
Shout out to you. Listening. I appreciate you, Reese. Anything you want to add, Reese? Hey, they just chilling in, just listen. All right, then. Hey, that's what it is. All right.
Yeah,
let me see. I got another chat, man. Hold on 1 second here. Okay. Reese said Reese said he was just listening in. All right, now I'm glad to have you, bro. Glad to have you. So let's. I want to dig a little deeper, right? And so when we talk about theology rap, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel when it comes to theology rap or rapping circumstance scenario? And then I want to say shout out to Glory Mo as well. Glad you're here. But how do you feel there's a time and a place for theology rap? Because you got to think if you're rapping a song and if you're trying to convey a message, mm-hmm. and you got somebody that they don't know what Deuteronomy. They don't know what Deuteronomy is. They don't know no scriptures, right? That's just gibberish talk.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel, because there's some people that's under the guise of, well, if I rap theology rap, and although you don't understand it, it's still just gonna bless your life. But if they don't understand it, if they don't understand the message or they don't understand the nuggets in what you're saying, how do you propose that needs to happen? Because there's two camps, still a camp that say, hey, theology rap, man, just if you ain't got no word in your songs and lyrics, you ain't no Christian. And then every verse is about put every Bible verse in every scripture. I mean, in every record, and then, and then So where's the balance to that? How does that work?
Oh, that's a great question, bro. Great question. So the way I would answer that personally, the first thing that jumped in my mind is just taking into account the scriptures, right? In the scriptures itself, in the 66 books of the Bible, you don't have theology necessarily straight through, or just, eschatological truths or Christological truths all the way throughout. However, you do see Christ all the way through the scriptures. But I would contend something to the effect of, when you read the Psalms, you can read the Psalms and it seems maybe a little more simplistic. Or when you jump over to the Proverbs, these are just wise sayings. Then you could jump over to the Pauline epistles and things like that. I'm sorry, I'm even doing it right now. My goodness, I'm saying epistles. Excuse me, Paul, the letters from Paul and the letters from Peter and in the New Testament. So a little bit of history about me. I have had the opportunity and the privilege to be able to run with a couple of theological camps and everything like that. And then I've also had time where I have run with brothers who kind of just keep things a little simpler. So there was a time in my life where I would have said the exact same thing. Maybe if you would have caught me about 10, 12 years ago, I would have said something like, you ain't got no Bible in your bars. Nah, get out of here. What I would simply say now is, I do believe that there is such a thing as, you present your art and hopefully you would use your art to point back to God and to give it back to God. But I would contend it is not absolutely a black and white requirement. Now, it's something that we all have, I think, as artists, we have a liberty to give our art back to God and use it to glorify God. So if you, as a Christian, would be like, hey, I don't want to use my art to glorify God at all, I would be like, okay. I mean, but that might be a deeper issue. So I'm going to say that there is explicit, Bible references. There might be theologically heavy type of rap. And then there might be, hey, I'm telling my testimony, or I'm telling a story, or I might just mention, things like, hey, I'm having a good day and I thank God, right? So I think there's a wide spectrum as far as the content, as far as our lyrical content with music. There are people who create excellent art and it's not explicit, and I can't look at the art and say this is heavily, biblical or Christ centered or anything like that. Whereas other people put out art where it is 100%. There's no questions. There's no, figuring it out. It's right in front of your face. So I think we do have liberty in that area, right? So I do think that there's room for both. I know me personally, my later projects, my more recent projects rather, have been more kind of, hey, let me tell you my story. Let me kind of, infuse how God has been active in my life. Let me tell you what's going on with me. Let me kind of be more transparent with some of my struggles. Whereas a lot of years ago, it was more like theologically heavy. And I don't have a problem with theologically heavy stuff. Sometimes, just to be absolutely honest, there are some songs where I'm listening to it and there's so much theologically heavy stuff that I'm just like, I gotta listen to a song multiple times. Like, it's like trying to drink orange juice concentrate. It's like, oh, this is too much. I gotta water. I can't take all of this content all at the same time. It's too rich. It's too intense. So some people can take that kind of content and it's no problem for them. Somebody like me, I'm like, hey, I gotta kind of slow down and kind of go through some of the lyrics slowly. And there's certain songs that are more theologically heavy that I think are good. And then there's some where I'm just like, okay, in order for me to listen to this song, I gotta crack open the dictionary and certain things. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but sometimes I want to like listen to a song where I just want to have a good time, and there's certain music I'm not gonna put on, to be honest with you, and there's certain music I am gonna put on. So it depends.
And when I actually was mastering this album, and obviously I had to listen to this album a lot to master it over and over and over again. I was drawn to it, man, because and we're gonna get into it just a little bit later. But I was drawn to more than 4 songs in, because it wasn't preachy, it was conversational, it was scenario based, it was thought provoking in the aspect of, and so. How do we really take real issues? Because what I'm seeing right now, that we got issues in the church, we got issues in society, we got issues in family, within family, we got issues within the workplace, right? How do you offer solutions, right, and put it in the language where people can understand, right? And so that's so I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that when we go through the album, but making money from your music, because you're doing music, because you paid me to master the album. Now, let me say, because I'm kind of going somewhere, right? You didn't call me and say, hey, bro, I want you to do this on love, on the strength of love, right?
Yeah.
That never came out of your mouth, nor did I.
No.
Nor did I have to ring you. I gave you the price of one song, and you did like 13 songs. You didn't try to have me, right? You didn't try to, speak in tongues and say, hey, bro, I need you to have discount, right? You were happy to pay. And you paid, and it was quickly. So where do you
have you to release this to me right now? Come on, put your hand on the screen. Put your hand on the screen. I hear the Lord saying, release this to me for $20. Come on. Touch hands and agree. Okay? Come on now. Come on. Receive the blessing. If you will just agree to what the Lord has said.
Dude, do you realize, man, that there's people that actually, hold on, they're killing me. Y'all gotta forgive me. That's another child, man, getting abducted here in Texas, man. Do you realize, man, that's literally the path that a lot of people take? And so, and that brings me to the next segue. Do you believe as Christians that we're supposed to get paid for what we do? Now, I mean, I got paid and you paid me. Do you think it's a sin? Do you think you're supposed to do your craft free of charge? Do those that are better at it and that are getting more money for it, do you think that the devil is somewhere in their life because they are taking the checks and taking those deposits and they getting enough money to where they can live off of that money? What's your mind and opinion on being an artist and getting paid for your
art? So that was hilarious. So no, thank God I didn't haggle you for the price. Like I
because you wouldn't have got you wouldn't have got your project.
So no, I respect that. No, so I know me personally, I know if it was me and I'm telling somebody, all right, so this is the services that I have, this is the services that you want, here's my price, right? Oh man, da, 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 da. I know I don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? And I feel like as somebody, I'm in my 40s, right? So I have been walking with the Lord for a while. I've been immersed in church culture since I was born. My parents have been in the same church since I was before I was born. So I grew up as a church boy. So I have
Right.
seen a lot, you know what I mean? And I have
Right.
seen people, kind of like over spiritualize certain things. That's kind of like, hey, you are way over here with it, and it doesn't even take all that. We're right down here on the ground level with it, where it's kind of like, well, I know you provided this service for me, but I hit even the thing that I made fun of is kind of like, hey, you don't have to do all of that. I
Right.
told you from the beginning, this is the service. I told you what the price was. You agreed to it. And now all of a sudden, when it's time to pay, now we have some funny stuff going on. Now you want to get kind of like all off in the outer space with it. Come on. We're not doing that. And so I think it's just simply the Bible talks about things like that. The first and I'm going to quote scripture in a sense again, where I think it was Paul that said something to the effect of a workman is worthy of his hire, right? So my
Correct.
thinking is you took time out of your schedule to master these songs, to listen to it, to really kind of like put your ear to the music, to kind of draw it out and make it sound the best that it could sound. And you're excellent at what you do. Shameless plug. So you're excellent at what you do. And I'm like, you took
Appreciate that,
time out
bro.
of your schedule, and that's time that you could have been devoting to something else, right? You could have done something else and let's face facts. We all have bills to pay. And so I recognize that. And even myself, I said to myself, like, I wouldn't have even contacted you if I didn't know in advance how much you charge, how many songs I need to get mastered, and I knew I had that money right off the top. If I know I don't have that right off the top, I'm not going to contact you, right? I'm not going to contact you until I know, all right, I have this money right here, even before he even starts. And I feel like that is just trying to be good at doing business, right? That's something anybody could respect, saved or unsaved. I feel like and that kind of goes into other things where the Bible does talk about our good conduct kind of testifying to who we claim to be, even before we could even say anything, right? I'm not cutting out, preaching the gospel, but sometimes, you could preach the gospel, but then your conduct doesn't match necessarily what you're talking about. So it's kind of like, hey, your message is good, but when it comes to how you kind of operate as far as business or how you kind of do things, the nonverbal preaching of the gospel, it doesn't match the same level. So you preach the gospel, you share, you teach the Bible, but you're shady when it comes to doing business. These things should not
Right.
go together, right? Our
Right.
good
Right.
conduct should go right along with our claims to be Christian. So I feel like, yes, in some cases, um, I feel like some cases where artists are making a living or they are devoting full time to their artistry. I think that if they're able to, they should get paid, honestly, because it's kind of like, hey, being an artist does not, you still have bills to pay, you still have, in some cases, families to take care of. So you're if Paul the apostle, who in the scriptures was saying, hey, I have a right as an apostle to take or to reap certain benefits from my sharing the gospel. He himself said that. It's like, okay, well, then we have an example in scripture to go off of. Me personally, I'm like, hey, I work. I mean, I have a job on the civilian side. I'm also in the military. So for me, I'm like, I have chosen, like, hey, if you have to pay for me to come through and minister, cool. If you don't, I personally am like, I don't care. I'm just grateful for the opportunity because I have something else that's going to take care of bills and everything like that. So, I think everybody has to kind of determine how they want to go about that. Some people decide to take money, some people do not. It's really up to the person, but I don't think it's wrong.
So, why do you feel money has become such a taboo in the house of God, man?
So you said why is something like that taboo in the church?
In churches now, like money right now is a huge thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because people are, and I'm saying that to say, as the age goes, as technology is becomes more relevant, right? You got
Hmm.
social media. Social media is here. It's in everybody's church. You're able to
Hmm.
see, just like you're able to take the camera and look at police officers. You're able to take social media and we look at how men and women of God act, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
so.
So yeah.
No, I'm just gonna stop there and let you kind of let you have your comment, man.
No, no problem, no problem. Appreciate that. That's a great question. Why is it taboo? I think, people try to maybe kind of swim on the deep end as far as the answer to that question, but I think it's actually pretty simple. People just simply are cheap sometimes. Like, I don't want to pay money. And so I try to make something sound super complex, but the law. Stop. Just let's cut through all of the rhetoric and just get
Right,
right to the heart of the problem. You're cheap.
right,
Just call it for what it is. You're cheap. So I get it. As somebody, and oh man. So growing up in church, I was the church drummer for many, many, many years, right?
right.
And that was something else that I did that I just grew up, just growing up, ever since I was, old enough to hold my head up and hold on to a drumstick, I was playing the drums, right? And so without throwing people under the bus, but kind of sort of, you have situations where it's kind of like you could bank on somebody who does it because they love it. They're gonna show up on time. They're gonna be at every
Mm,
rehearsal, and you don't have to worry about paying the person, right? And so for so many, and this is all facts, and this is not to shade anybody. I think my brother's tuning in, so knows what I'm telling you is true. So it wasn't, I was playing the drums in my home church for many years. Didn't even think like, hey, you know what? I could actually get paid from this. I didn't care. You know what I mean? And
right.
so it was a situation where I had gotten to the age where I was going away to college. So, okay, now for the first time in a long time, my home church is without a drummer. So now you have to find somebody else. Here's the problem. Rich was doing it for free for many years. Now Rich is off to college. Now you have to pay somebody, but you have to get somebody to play the drums. But a lot of people are not going to show up for free. So what happened was when I did come back from college, it was this thing of, okay, oh, this person is playing. I hope this doesn't sound arrogant, but I'm going to risk saying it anyway. The person that was playing the drums in place of me was like, oh, okay, wait a minute, hold on a second. And I pulled my mother to the side, like, hold on, this person is getting paid for what they're doing. And not for nothing, this person is not as good as I am at what they're doing. Okay. And so for many years, was not getting paid. Did I make an issue of it? No, I wasn't even thinking along those lines. But now it's
Right,
like this thing of, I'm away. All right, now I'm back. So
right.
now you've been paying this person, and now you're glad to see me back for two reasons because you're thinking that you don't have to pay me, and I can actually play the drums better than this person. Okay, now I'm back. Hold on a second. How much were you paying that person? Okay, so what's happening now? So now the payments are going to stop because I'm back? Wait a minute. Now you was paying that guy. I'm now aware of the fact that I can get paid. And mind you, the amount that I was getting paid, if I told musicians at that time how much I was getting paid per Sunday, they
That,
would laugh
I was gonna
because
say they
there were
would laugh
people
at
who
you.
were getting
Yeah,
paid, right? There were people who were getting paid on a Sunday more than what I was getting paid for 4 Sundays. And I'm just like, wow. So I remember, like I said, at the end of the day, sometimes people are just cheap. If you're cheap, you're cheap. You can't spiritualize it, trying to make it sound all spooky and whatnot. You're just cheap. You don't have to make it complicated. You're cheap. So my thinking is, if you want to be cheap and stuff, like my father used to say when he was alive, he would say things like good thing, like he would say it in kind of like mocking like a Jamaican patois, right? He would say, cheap ting the good, good ting the cheap. So if you want something that is a good quality, you have to pay for it, right? It's a
Facts.
simple concept. So it's my opinion where money in a lot of different spaces is taboo because the heart of the matter is people want excellence, but you want bargain basement prices for things that are of an excellent quality. And the world just doesn't work like that.
Do you believe the pastor has a responsibility to educate his or her parishioners on money, or do you believe that it's not the pastor's responsibility to educate his people on money? If they are educated on money, do you think it's every man for himself? You got to go in and get it for yourself. What do you think the responsibility lies on the pastor in educating their people that are following them and giving to them and their families and setting up legacy for them? Do you think is the pastor's responsibility to do that?
So my opinion, and again, yet another great question. I My personal opinion is that I think it is a responsibility for a pastor to talk about money, regardless of if he has people within the congregation who are good with money, people who are not that good with money. I think it is highly beneficial. I think the scriptures do talk about money. So, even to the extent of, hey, as each one purpose in his or her heart to give, let that person be convinced in their own mind and in their own heart, let them give, right? At the same time, it's kind of like I've been in so many different spaces, bro. Like I've been in places where people are like, just sow a seed, and in latter years, I'll be like, hey, wait a minute. So I understand what you're saying, and I feel you, but I have certain obligations that I'm going to get taken care of. You're not going to tell me, I'm not going to be foolish enough to sow a seed that's the same amount as my ranked money, and then be like, well, you're just going to hold on to faith that God is going to provide that. For some people, that might be what it is that God is calling them to do, right? But I'm very much in the space, kind of like Gideon, and I feel like I've been in that space for a while, where I'm like, okay, all right, God, if it's true that you want me to sow this seed, which is a large amount, if you want me to give this large amount, and you're telling me to have faith that you'll provide it on the back end, okay, but I need to know without a shadow of a doubt that this is you telling me to do this, because I can't take that risk if it's not, because I'm going to be sitting here looking stupid. Like, I swore it was God that told me. We have to know, you understand what I mean? So
Right,
my thinking is, when it comes to talking about money, there is an aspect of money, right? When it comes
right.
to kingdom stuff, right? I kind of cringe when I say the word kingdom, because I feel like it's been misused so much. So now when I say kingdom, I'm like, ugh. But when it comes to kingdom matters, there is, like, money is going to be an aspect of it, right? If we're going to go forth in ministry, if we're going to do a podcast, if we're going to release an album, if we're going to build a website, all these things take money. And so it's not just, oh, this takes money. It kind of is implied that you should be good with the money that you do get, right? If you bring,
Correct.
it doesn't make sense for you to, I remember I would say this for years. You know what? I'm going to start a business. I'm going to start a business. Wait, before you start a business, figure out if you have enough money to start a business. It's not rocket science, right? And
Facts.
figure out if you're good with money. Can you balance, like, can you figure out a budget? Are you good with budgeting money? Are you good with money? Are you good with managing your money? Because if you're horrible with money, that's not going to change with whatever venture you decide to take. So again, there's so much to it, but yeah, I do think that we as Christians, like money should not be taboo for us. It's not taboo for us when we're paying for other things like Netflix and buying gas and going out to restaurants. There's certain places where even the cheapest of people are not cheap. So,
Facts. I say facts. I say facts, man.
sir.
So from the heart too. Um, where did you get the concept from the album? Did you have several producers on the album? Who were your producers that you had on the album? We're gonna shout them out.
So I believe all of the songs are from my man Tone Jones, right? Um, Grammy Award winning producer. I've just it was just it's so crazy because one by one I would just hear each one of these beats and be like, oh my God, I gotta find like even beats that I knew I had something for, and I tried, I would have songs pre-written and then try them over certain beats, and I felt like okay, and the beat would be to a certain level of excellence where I'm like, I gotta find something for this, and if I don't have anything for this, I'm gonna have to write something for this. So there was quite a few songs that I didn't for, but once I heard the beat, I'm like, I have to write something to this. And so that's kind of how it happened. But I think if not every single song on the project is by Tone Jones, it's most of them off the top of my head. I believe it's most, if not all of them. So yeah, I used one producer on that. I think I would say I think that it has somewhat of a consistent sound all the way through, whereas my previous projects, the ones where I would use multiple producers, it kind of was a little all over the place as far as the sound, but I think this one has been kind of more consistent. So
No, the definitely album is really consistent, man. And if you haven't had an opportunity, man, go check out the album right now. Streaming on all platforms. From the heart to Life is War, Sage Music. You can go check it out. It was produced by Tone Jones. That was a question that I wanted to know because there's a lot of consistency on the album. And my favorite cut, man, is Daughters. Obviously, I got Daughters. That's Daughters is my favorite. My favorite cut number one. Sky equal to Daughters. Love Sky. The Through the Valley. Brand New Mercies. Show You Better. Healing. So I keep the whole album on repeat. But when I get to those cuts, I probably kind of repeat those, man, probably 10, 15 times before I move on to the next joint. The son daughters, man, it really touched my heart. Being a father, having daughters, and that's what I love about what you did with this album. It spoke to real life situations, right? And there was a lot of truth in the album, but there was a lot of feel good moments in the album. There was a lot of relaxation in the album. It was a lot of
appreciate that.
It was a lot. I ain't gonna say there's a lot going on, but it was a lot of. It take you through some emotions, make you think a little bit, make you kind of, like you get hardcore, man. But it was really smooth. Tone Jones is super smooth, and Tone Jones has been a pillar, man, in the community for a long time. So I gotta say kudos to you, bro. Kudos.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Where do you see the state of music going right now? In your opinion, where do you see the state of music in the general? Whether it's mainstream, where do you see music is headed to?
That's a that's a pretty good question. So that's very interesting. I would say that where music is right now, um, it seems like people are kind of looking for kind of like what are the classics. I guess it depends on the audience that we're talking about, right? Because there
Right.
are people who are kind of finicky when it comes to music. I think more than ever before, people kind of quickly get bored with certain things when there isn't really too much substance behind that. I do think that music as a whole, mainstream or otherwise, is more transparent. There are not really too many subjects that people can't really talk about. So I think people have had the opportunity to be able to be pretty transparent, just kind of bare their soul. And that was actually part of my inspiration with coming out with this project. I kind of wanted to kind of take the listener on a journey of, things that go through my mind. If there is a little bit of a lot going on with the project, it's definitely like if it comes from my head, that lets you know there's a lot going on up here. So, but music as a whole, where is it going? I mean, time will only tell. But I do think that, people are taking more risks as far as music, trying things out. You've got people who otherwise would not sing, trying things out as far as singing, kind of stretching beyond their own, maybe their limitations, or kind of reinventing themselves in a little bit. Um, so yeah, I mean, music as a whole, I think maybe music, mainstream or otherwise, there are a lot of people in music right now.
It
The
is
marketplace, as it were, is probably a little crowded, to
super
say the
crowded.
least. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's a little overcrowded. There's a lot of artists out right now. So I think that's something that you, as an artist, you kind of have to work against in a sense. At the
Right.
same time, it's this thing of, if you have something about your particular brand within music
Mhm.
that stands out from everybody else, it's gonna kind of like stick more. Like, if I'm hungry, I want to get something to eat. I can
Right.
eat whatever I would like to eat. And certain things you're gonna eat, and then maybe like half an hour later, you're gonna be like, "Hey, I'm kind of hungry again," because what I filled my stomach with is not as filling. Whereas, you kind of get something that's a little more, something that's gonna stick to your ribs. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be kind of settled in a little bit more. So I think the same thing could be said with music. So.
So what are your top three lessons learned? What are your top three? And I want you to hold that. We're gonna come right back. Just gonna take a quick commercial break. But I want you to think about, what are your top three lessons that you learned on your journey in music.
Scorpio Lamont is the official eyewear of the Big Three. Luxury, fashion eyewear with a wider frame and a bold look. Seeing is believing. Bring your A game with the look you want. Luxury, fashion eyewear by Scorpio Lamont, the official eyewear of the Big Three.
And don't forget, you can pick up, man, From the Heart too, streaming right now on all platforms, man. The album is dope, produced by Tone Jonez, all tracks produced by Tone Jonez. I mastered the album. And then at the same time, right, if you got a project you need me to master yours, hey, I only charge $10 per song. There's a fast turnaround, man. Reach out to me if you need that work as well. Then too, if you need me to mix your project as well, I only charge $8.50 per stem. So you send an email, you can send it to southernemperor@gmail.com, and yep, we can make it happen. So tell me your three lessons, your hard lessons that you learned on your music journey, bro.
Okay, so three lessons that I've learned on my music journey.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing that comes to mind is, again, to be honest, as far as I'm sorry, not to be honest, to be excellent at what it is that you do, right?
Right.
Again, you know, myself as a artist who's a Christian artist, whatever, because that whole subject matter can go any kind of way. But
Right.
just
Right.
as someone who is an artist and who is a Christian, slapping the Christian label on something does not automatically make it good. It does not make it automatically like, hey, man, I should listen to this. I should get everybody I know to listen to this. No, I think if you're good, you're good. If you're not good, you're just not good. And I feel like
Not
I had to
good.
learn that. There's
Facts.
certain things that I had to learn early on in learning that very lesson. So be excellent at what you do. So I would be one. Two, I would say on my personal journey to be authentic to who you are, right? Um, not too long ago, I was speaking with a friend of mine who actually also does music as well. Um, and it was just we were just having a conversation within the genre of Christian rap, gospel rap, whatever you be calling it nowadays.
Right.
Um, so there was a period of time, and possibly it's possibly still going on, where artists felt the need to kind of present themselves as something that they are not, right? You got
Facts.
the person who is now a Christian, but before they came to Christ, they were in the streets, and they made it kind of sound like they were Ricky Ross out here moving drugs, and what are you talking about? Or you kind of drum up a criminal arrest history, or yeah, I'm in Christ now because before I would have done this, I would have done that, this, that, and the third, but now I'm saved. And it's kind of like, okay. So I'm so grateful that you're not outside mobbing the streets anymore. Okay, praise the Lord. I feel safer now. Now that you've come to Christ, now what?
Right.
But
Right.
again, it's kind of like, were you really out here doing all this crazy stuff that you're
Right.
talking about?
Right.
Were you
Right. Right.
really?
Right.
Because I'm trying to figure out, how did you avoid jail time?
Right. Right.
Is there anybody out there that could vouch for how involved in the streets, in the street life you were?
Right.
So yeah, sometimes it becomes this thing of, um, you kind of get somebody that would, or rather an audience that would probably pay more attention to you because you kind of talking about how you were prior to, you know.
Right.
My man Corey Red, back in the day, he said something to the effect of, if cowboy rap was something that was really just very lucrative as far as bringing in revenue, then all rappers would be wearing 10-gallon hats and have spurs on their boots. And I'm just like, ever since he said that, I'm like, that's a good point. Whenever you
Facts.
have something that's hugely popular, all of a sudden everybody's this
Everybody
thing.
wants to do it.
Wow.
Everybody want to do it. Everybody want to do it. Everybody want to do it, man.
Yeah, man. So, I was gonna say my second thing was to be authentic. And then the other thing is, I would say my third lesson I would say that I learned: do what you love, right? Because and that's one thing I would say that I'm grateful for as an independent artist. I don't have necessarily deadlines or anything like that. I don't have to be under the pressure to create art. So I have 100% creative control over what it is I do. So I create what it is that I love. So I think that would be my third thing that I think I would learn. So
So before we get out of here, man, we're gonna do this game called 10, right?
okay,
And I just want you to give, it's either or, whatever come to mind,
all
right?
right,
You can elaborate if you want to, right? But
okay.
all right, so let's go. LeBron or Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan.
Club Shay Shay or the Breakfast Club?
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. That's tough. I'm gonna go with the Breakfast Club because I feel like it's more variety. Although I do enjoy Club Shay Shay. So,
Okay, okay. Toyota or Honda?
ooh, that's tough. That's tough. That's tough. I'm gonna go with Honda. Partial to Hondas because the Civic is just such a classic. So, but that's tough.
Chorus or verses?
Say again.
Chorus, chorus or verses?
And I'm a person who loves lyricism, so I'm gonna say verses versus chorus. So yeah.
Mouthpiece, the rapper, or Derek Minor, the rapper?
Woo. So Mouthpiece, I'm gonna go with Mouthpiece because Mouthpiece be saying some stuff, bro. Yo, There's
Yeah,
certain
we
things he
doing
even saying that's just like, oh, that was fire, and it was convicting. So Peace is my guy.
Bizzle or Theory Has It?
Say again?
Bizzle or Theory Has It?
Why you do that? Oh man, that's tough. So for beats, Theory has it, but then again, Bizzle doesn't do beats. But for man, I'm gonna go with Bizzle. That's tough, but I'm gonna go with Bizzle because Bizzle has been on fire for like mad years. So
Chiefs or 49ers?
why you do that? What? Um, I'm gonna go with the 49ers because of that game that they played against Detroit. Oh, that game was crazy. So I'm gonna go with the 49ers.
All right, all right. 2K24 or Madden 24?
I'm gonna go with 2K. 2K24.
GTA 5 or Starfield?
I have no idea. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Video games, I'm guessing, yeah.
Yeah, video games, man. Grand Theft Auto and the new space game, Starfield. Like you.
Oh, got you,
So,
got you, got you.
so you haven't played it.
I'm gonna go with, yeah. Grand Theft Auto.
Cat Williams or Kevin Hart?
So on fire today. Let me see. I'm gonna go with Cat Williams because I feel like Cat Williams is more consistently funny. Like, no shot against Kevin Hart, but Cat Williams to me is hilarious.
Any final thoughts, man? I appreciate that. Any final thoughts, man? Before I let you get out of here, bro. Any other final thoughts, man? You want to share, bro?
I would just even my final thoughts, honestly, bro, is I would just simply say that I appreciate you allowing me to be here. I appreciate the work that you do as far as the music. So again, shout out to you, big shout out to you for this. I love being here. This podcast is excellent. I'm excited to see where you're gonna go next with this, and keep at it, man.
Man, I appreciate that. All right, so well, we're gonna wrap that up, man. I want to say, bro, I appreciate you coming. I definitely, man, been a long time coming, man. Appreciate you, bro. The album is fire. Before we go, make sure you actually go pick up this album, From the Heart to Life is War. Whether you on Amazon, you have YouTube Music, man, it's streaming on all platforms, and I'm gonna put it up there again. Make sure you go check out this album. The album is fire. Is fire. And want to shout out to Reese, man. Everybody, they kind of tuned in. Appreciate you, man. Reese say, man, he proud of you. You know, good stuff. He proud of you, man.
Appreciate it.
I thank you guys, man, for tuning in. And until next Friday, man, you guys be easy and hold on, my boy. Don't you go nowhere yet. All right? Gonna be right back.